Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Rustam. This is my, I think, after Eid break, that is Eid holidays. This is a very important, video tutorial. Although I have already discussed this topic in our WhatsApp group with the help of voice messages, but I thought that maybe some students have not attended it, and so a video lecture will help them, because it is always easy to download a video lecture and to listen to it again and again. So this is psycholinguistic series, and already we have learned about first language acquisition, and particularly the environment available to first language learner, that is a child. And in this regard we have already learned about behaviorism as well as mentalism. Now keeping that on the back of your mind, you can listen to this lecture. So now what we are going to discuss, so as the topic indicates, that factors affecting language learning. So here I will be mainly concerned with foreign language. Okay, foreign language. So foreign language is different from first language. So we use usually these terms L1, okay, L2, L3, L4 are a foreign language. So L1 is usually mother tongue. Okay, so the mother tongue is usually known as L1. So any language other than mother tongue is known as second language or third language, L2, L3. Now let me give you an example. If someone speaks Punjabi, Hindko, Pashto, Saraiki, etc., Sindhi, Balochi, so this is first language in Pakistani context. Okay, if someone also speaks Urdu, it is second language. Okay, and we may speak English in Pakistan, that will be our third language. But English will be considered as a foreign language as well in Pakistan. Why? So what is the difference between a second language? Okay, let me write here: second language and a foreign language. So learners of learners of second language, they have greater degree of exposure to the target language, and learners of a foreign language, they have lesser degree of exposure to the target language. Now let me explain first what is target language. Target language: if you are learning Urdu in Pakistan and you are a Pakistani by birth and you are learning Urdu, so Urdu is your second language, so this will be your target language because you are learning Urdu, so Urdu will be your target language. And if you are learning English, okay, English, and English will be your foreign language for you, and it again will be your target language. So the language you are learning other than your mother tongue is your target language. Okay, if it is your national language, then it is your second language, and if it is a foreign language, then it is a if it is other than your national language, it is your foreign language. So what is the difference between second language and foreign language? So degree of exposure determines the status of second and foreign language. Let me write here: second, English as a second language, ESL, or English as a foreign language, EFL. So those who are learning English as a second language, they have greater degree of exposure to the language. Let's say you happen to go to England, and now in England you will be have greater exposure to English, because you will be in the language classroom in the university or in a school, because you are there for 5 months in England, and you want to learn a language course in England. So you will be taught English inside the class by the teachers, and when you leave the classroom and you go out and you come to your own flat, you come to your own residence, or you visit a market, so you will again be exposed to English. Everybody will be speaking English around you, so your chances of learning English will be greater, because English is acting as a second language. Now let's take the case in Pakistan. You are a Pakistani by birth, you have a first language, let's say Hindko or Pashto. Now you are learning English in Pakistan. So what are your chances of success? Because you learn English within the confines of a regular class. So your teacher is the sole authority. Your teacher provides you model of English. So all the exposure to English is within the classroom. As soon as you leave the classroom, you come out of the school, you come home, or you on the way, you never listen to anybody speaking English. People will be speaking Pashto or Hindko or Urdu around you, and when you get home, your siblings will be talking to you in Urdu or Hindko or Pashto. So where is English? No exposure to English. So English exposure, if the exposure to target language is less, and it is only within the confines of a class, so this language will be called as a foreign language. So learner of a second language has a greater exposure to language, and learner of a foreign language depends entirely to a formal system of education, that is a school or a classroom. So in Pakistan, English is being taught as a foreign language because still we do not have a great environment, and our learners, when they leave the classroom, leave the colleges, schools, they come home, they come to market, etc., they don't have much exposure to language. Okay, with this preliminary thought, so let's talk about other factors which influence our language. These are some of the factors, okay, which influence foreign language learning, like aptitude, motivation, needs, personality of the learner, age of the learner, learning strategies, L1 influence, okay, it may be positive or negative, teacher's performance in the classroom, okay. I'll discuss these quickly so that video size may not be very much. So let's move on to the next slide. Now in our previous interaction, because this is a customized lecture, and my target audience is BS students, and I'm addressing my own students which who study from me in Government Degree College of Velia. So that's why this lecture is being recorded according to their requirements. So if someone else is listening to this lecture on my YouTube channel, so he or she must be aware of this fact that this is a special lecture for my own students. So audience is BS target audience for this lecture is BS students of my own class, okay. Now in my classes, dear students, I already discussed two important construct, that is nature and nurture. Nature and nurture, like what is the role of nature and nurture. Now let me talk about first language, L1, okay. Our first language acquisition mean our mother tongue, okay. So what's the role of nature and nurture? There are two theories which I discussed. One was behaviorism and another one was mentalism. So nature mean mentalist approach, okay. Innateness theory says that everybody has an innate language learning mechanism which determines learning identically for each of us, okay. That is, we all are born with a language faculty. So when we are born, our siblings, our parents, when they give us initial input, and it doesn't mean that we are having blank slates in the mind. We already come to language learning, language with basic structures inside the mind, okay. This is nature. We are naturally endowed with language potential or language capability. So every homo sapiens, every human child already brings with him her language capacity of language learning capacity or language acquisition capacity. This is known as nature. Now nurture means that training. So you learn a language by doing it, like learning by doing, okay. This approach is known as learning by doing. What does it say? It says that language learning is entirely the product of experience, and our environment affects all of us in the same way. So environment is very important construct, and it says that whatever we learn, particularly first language, so it is from outside. If a child learns or acquires his first language from the surroundings, from the siblings, from the parents, okay, and from the experience, from the imitation, from association. So there is nothing inside the mind. Okay, it is the nurture, it is the training. If there were no training, a child would not speak. So now both these theories have implications. Like, as far as first language is concerned, language acquisition is concerned, this theory is known as behaviorism theory. Okay, nurturing behaviorism. And this theory is known as innateness theory, or you can say mentalist theory. And they say this theory is much plausible as far as first language is concerned. I have already discussed it, that a child up to the age of 5, he or she speaks a lot of language. It means that how can a child can speak language up to 5 years of age? So his language is complete. Morphological structures, his phonological competence, his syntactical competence, even semantic competence is well established up to the age of 5. So how can he have had such a long exposure from environment? So it means although exposure to the target language or the first language was necessary, that is initial input was necessary for triggering the LAD, okay, language acquisition device, or language mechanism or cognitive framework. It was necessary that the child or the first language learner must have some initial input. But it was not because of this initial input that the whole first language was learned. The whole first language could not have been learned because of this very meager input from the media or from the environment. There must have definitely been inside some mechanism. So language may have been inside 60 to 80% or 60 to 70%, and only 20 to 30% role was played by the environment or from the training or from the nurturing. So that's why the learner or the child was able to produce a very good size of language. So first language acquisition is mainly because of nature. Okay, and the role of behaviorism or nurturing is very minimal as far as first language is concerned. Now nurturing or training is very effective in second language learning, okay, L2, or foreign language learning. Why? Because in foreign language learning, in we cannot control what is going on inside the mind. Okay, but a foreign language learner, when he or she comes to class, he or she has already acquired his first language. So his systems are already there. His phonological features, particularly muscular effort, is trained. His ears is trained. So his tongue is already trained with first language systems, L1 system. When he or she comes to second language or foreign language, now training can play a very effective role. Okay, so here we can control the environment. Okay, although either view may have implications for language teaching. Okay, like mentalism and behaviorism both have some role to play. Okay, in teaching, but it is only the environment that can manipulate in that we can manipulate in teaching. Okay, so if we are teaching a second and foreign language, so what is in our control? Only the environment. Okay, so we can control the environment and we can teach. So it means that behaviorism will be applicable mostly in second language learning. However, there are other factors as well, like other than mentalism and behaviorism, which affect our foreign language learning. So what are those factors? As I mentioned earlier at the start of the this presentation, that there are individual variation in language learning. Okay, it means that if there are two learners or two students sitting in a language classroom, okay, in a foreign language classroom, so one of the student may perform better in language achievement as compared to the other. So what are the factors which are causing this very good performance? Are there individual differences among learners? Yes, there are differences about among learners which affect the rate of learning in a foreign language. First, very important factor is aptitude. Now, uh, there is a theory that some learners or some students, they have a gift for languages. Okay, they are cut out for language learning. They have a natural potential for languages. Okay, if you happen to have if you happen to read if you have had a chance to read Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. So Howard Gardner talks about different intelligences like bodily kinesthetic, visual learners, okay, auditory learners, spatial learners, and he also talks about language linguistic verbal intelligence, okay, linguistic verbal intelligence. So there are people who have this linguistic verbal intelligence. It means that they are naturally gifted for language learning. So maybe in the class, let's say if a class, you have a class, if you are a teacher, you are teaching a foreign language, and you have a class of 30 students in front of you. Okay, so in this class there may be some students who are having linguistic verbal intelligence, that is, and others may be visual learners or they have mathematical learners. So those who are gifted with linguistic verbal intelligence, their rate of learning of a foreign language will be far greater as compared to those who don't have this linguistic verbal intelligence. So it means some of us, some of the students, they are naturally gifted for language learning. Now let me give you an example of language aptitude test. Okay, in America, these two tests, MLAT and LAB, they were carried out. They were conducted on some students who wanted to join a language course. So the people, the tutors, or the language educators, or the instructors, they wanted to know whether the aspirants or the people, the students who want to learn our language, whether they have aptitude for language learning. So they devised these two tests and they were administered to students. Okay, so the first test is known as Modern Language Aptitude Test, MLAT, and this was designed by Carroll and Sappens. So this had 5 items and mostly they were linguistic items. Okay, and this was administered to students and the scores were noted down. And the scores would be compared with the actual performance of the students. So this test was going to act as a prediction. Now second test was which was designed by Pimsleur. It was language aptitude test, language aptitude battery. So how was it different from the first one? Because in this test all the 5 linguistic items were there. Okay, but what was added to it? Two things were added to it. Two more items were added to it. One was student motivations. There were questions like are you motivated to learn, are you interested in English. There were few questions, items on the questionnaire. And another was GPA in other subjects, grade point average in other subjects. So students other performance in other subjects was also part of this test. So now scores were noted down and they were put aside and they were kept safe. Now students were put into a language learning class, and there might have been a course, let's say 3 months course or 6 months course of language instruction, and then their performance was measured in actual classroom. Now students who had performed good on lab on this test, okay, they also performed very good in English language proficiency. So it meant that initially the examiners predicted that students who perform very well on lab, they would also perform very well in language class. So they identified a certain number of students in the class And on the basis of this test, they said earlier on, when the language instruction had not yet started, okay, just after this test, the educators, the examiners, they pointed out certain number of students, and they predicted that these students had a good aptitude for language, and they would perform very well in the language classroom. And their prediction proved true, because those who were predicted as a good learners, they really perform very well, and in the actual language performance, okay, after 6 months or after 3 months of language instruction. So it means that certain people do have some language aptitude. So these let me read from the slide that grades on these two tests were compared with actual performance of learners in the class in order to see whether or not the success or failure in the test could predict success or failure in the language courses. So those who failed in these tests, let's say language aptitude test, so the educator said that they would also be failed in the actual language performance. And those who successfully completed this test, items of this test, so educators said they would also be successful in language learning. And yes, it proved successful. So it means aptitude is a good factor. It's a very effective factor which affects language learning, particularly foreign language learning. If you do not have any aptitude, so definitely you will not learn a language, foreign language, very effectively. Now another important factor is motivation, okay. So now there are two situations. One is there is a learner who wants to learn something, and there is a learner who has to learn something. So now it is quite different if someone wants to learn something and if someone has to learn something. This has to structure, or has to, it indicates compulsion, majburi. So you are doing something under compulsion, you are forced to do something, okay. You do not want to learn it, you do not want to learn a language, rather it is some other compulsion that forces you to learn. So language is a means to an end, okay. For you, the learner in this situation is learning a language not for the sake of language, rather language is a means to some other end. So something else is the, let's say you there is an exam, you want to pass an exam. So passing an exam is your purpose or end, and English is a compulsory subject on the course. So you have to pass English in order to get a diploma or degree in a certain program, okay. So this is your compulsion. Or you want a job somewhere, okay. Let's say you want to go to China or Korea, and their demand is that you must have basic competence in Chinese language and Korean language. Now you are part of a language course, you are learning a foreign language. Now it means you are doing something under compulsion. And are you are on a holiday in a country, and let's say you happen to visit Europe, and you are in a French country, you are in France or Germany, and now 1 month's holiday you have to spend. Now you want to learn some language, now again you are compelled to learn. So your education system compels you to learn a language. Let's say you are doing a degree in physics, you are doing MSc in physics, and physics is taught through the medium of English. Now it is your compulsion to learn English in order to be successful in physics. So your learning of language is not intrinsically motivated. So you are learning this language by force of circumstances. So these situations say that your learning will be dependent upon your instrumental motivation. Although you have motivation, you are in the language course, but you are not integratively motivated. So there are two types of motivations. Let me write now here. One is integrative motivation, okay, and the other one is instrumental motivation, okay. So in integrative motivation, you want to learn something, okay, like it can be because you one wants to know more of the culture and values of a foreign language group. So let's say you are a foreigner and you are doing a documentary on Medina and Makkah, or what Muslims do while they go on pilgrimage and when they go on Hajj, what type of things they perform. So you will learn Arabic, and now because you are interested, you are a scholar, so you want to learn about Arabic culture, okay, Arabic values. So this is your integrative motivation, intrinsic motivation. So nobody is forcing you to do this, okay. So you are interested in a foreign culture. Second can be that you wish to make contact with speakers of the language. So there are learners, there are people who are interested to be in contact with some other speakers. They want to interact with Chinese, okay, and nobody forces them, just they want to interact. So this interaction makes them learn a language. So it means they are integratively motivated. Or you want to live in a country, okay, let's say you want to live in England and you want to learn English because you are going to live for certain period of time in England. So you will be motivated integratively because now you will learn language. And now there is a theory, there is an hypothesis that students are learners who are integratively motivated, okay, those who are integratively motivated, that is motivated within themselves, okay, within themselves, are intrinsic motivation. So such learners, those who are intrinsically motivated, they will be learning a language better as compared to those who are instrumentally motivated. That is, their motivation is from outside. They are extrinsic motivation, okay. They are learning a language by force, by some majburi, by some compulsion, okay. So if you are learning a language by force, then you are using language as a means to an end. You are learning a language as a means to an end. So your attitude towards language learning will be hostile and intolerant. So you will be less successful in learning a language, okay. But if you are learning a language as an end in itself, okay, your attitude will be sympathetic towards culture and the speakers of whose language you are learning, okay. So in that case, you have more chances to be successful in learning a language, okay. In this slide I have discussed integrative and instrumental motivation. I'm receiving few calls, and that's why I'm getting again and again being interrupted. So those who are integrative motivated, they have more chances to learn a language, foreign language, and those who are instrumentally motivated, they will have less chances to be successful. So this is also known as intrinsic motivation, and this is known as extrinsic motivation. Let me write it here for you. Intrinsic motivated, and extrinsic motivated. So hope you have got an idea that this is very important factor, motivation. So people with integrative motivation will perform better in language learning courses, and as compared to those who are learning a language just to as a mean to an end, okay. Now let's move on, and here is another important factor known as need. So what is need? Need means that if you have an immediate need, then you have more chances to learn a language, and if you have less need, then maybe you cannot learn a language fast. Okay. Now, need is very important factor, because let me give you an example. Let's say if a person, let me give you an example of two people. One is Ahmed, another one is let's say Aslam. Okay, Ahmed is a is working in a company, and in Pakistan, and this company deals with he is sent to Japan, Tokyo. Okay, and because his company works in Tokyo as well, so now he is given a task to learn Japanese language in Pakistan. So he brings a book and a cassette and starts learning. Okay, now when he reaches Tokyo, he will go out in the evening with his colleagues, and now consider, so will he be able to learn Japanese in Pakistan, or will he be able to learn Japanese quickly when he joins the corporate market in Tokyo? Because more chances are that now his need is immediate. There he has to interact with people, so his rate of learning foreign language will be greater in Tokyo as compared to in Pakistan. Now let me give you another example of Mr. Aslam. Aslam is learning English in intermediate, because he has to pass intermediate exam, uh, and his future plans are that he will go to university and learn Urdu, and he will become a lecturer in Urdu. Now his motivation to learn English is just to pass an exam, and in future he does not have any intention to pursue English. So now you can compare that who will be a very successful learner, Ahmed or Aslam. Ahmed will be more successful because he has an immediate need as compared to Aslam, because Aslam is learning English as a means to an end. It is his compulsion, because if he doesn't pass exam, he will be a failure. He will fail the exam. If he fail the exam, he won't get his degree or diploma. So rate of learning as far as Aslam is concerned will be less as compared to the person who has an immediate need. Now let's talk about another example, case of immigrant. Okay, immigrants in a country. So those, if you are an immigrant in a country, so your need is more, because you have to interact with people, you have to do some business. Okay, like we have people from Afghanistan in Pakistan, particularly in Hazara region. Okay, and I have observed myself, and maybe it is your own experience as well, that they learn Hindko within 2 to 3 months, and although they are adults, and they already have their own language, but they acquire, rather they learn Hindko, the language of Hazara division, very fast. So what is the main reason behind it? Because they know that if they don't learn Hindko, they won't be able to open shop, they won't be able to sell vegetable, fruit or clothes as we see they do in our areas, and they won't have job as daily wages, etc. So because language will be a barrier, so in order to gain financial gains in our region, they learn Hindko, and the rate of learning is very fast. So what makes them do this? Their need. So need is a forceful or effective factor, which because of which they learn the language quickly. So if let's say if they live in an area where there are, everybody in Pakistan is speaking let's say Afghan language. Okay, now let's imagine that there is a area in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in which mostly Afghan people live, and they have their shops, and they have their vegetable shop, fruit shop. Now if some fresh immigrant comes from Afghanistan, he or she will not learn any vernacular or any local language, because he does not need to. because he can do transaction using his own Afghan language, because everybody is speaking Afghan language in Pakistan, so in that particular area. So if there is a sizable number of immigrants speaking the mother tongue, so newcomer will never learn the local language. But if there are less number of Afghan people living in any section of Pakistan, then newcomer will definitely speak, will learn another language, that is foreign language. So the need is a very important determinant. So if you have an effective or immediate need, then your rate of learning of foreign language will be more as compared to if you don't have a need. So factors affecting foreign language, there are many, but one of the important factor is need. So need is will decide the rate of your learning. Now let's talk about age. What about age? Does age affect our foreign language learning? Now again there are divergent views. Okay, some say that age does affect, but some say age does not affect. Majority of the cases, or majority of in majority of cases, the evidence is in favor of a critical period, that we all have a critical period. So it is a very significant variable in language learning. So one school says that with age comes a change in the potential for foreign language. So as we grow old, let's say increasing age, when we are with increasing age, what happens? Decreasing capacity of language. Okay, so in early stages, like when we are children, when we are a boy. So if a person is a boy or a child, so in early stages of language learning, our rate of learning is more as compared to when we become old. So a brain is has plasticity, up to the age of 18 or 16. So when we move beyond 22 years, that is our neuromuscular structure stops after 22 years of age. So it is a theory that brain settle down and plasticity goes away. So it is a common observation that children, they learn, if they are exposed to language learning, so they can acquire many languages while they are child, or while they are children, and while they are in adolescent age. Okay, particularly teenage. So in teenage, they can learn many languages and they can be ambilinguals. But when someone grows old, he or she will have lesser chances of language learning. Let's say if someone is 70 years old and he or she now wants to learn a language, or if he or she wants to enroll in a foreign language course, let's say a Japanese course or Chinese course, and he approaches a university or a language administrator, and let's say they refuse admission, and they say no, you can't learn language as you are quite old. So if you demand some argument or some justification for refusal, so definitely they will say that no, with advanced age your potential for language learning or your capacity for language learning is reduced. And in a query to your in an answer to your query, they may produce a number of case studies, and they can say that in the past there were people who tried to learn language with advanced age and they were failures. And so it means that there is usually a critical period, and if that critical period is reached, we may lose a potential for language learning. Usually we haven't, in my own experience, I haven't seen people with advanced age learning language. Even learning of any skill, let's say you want to drive, you want to learn driving at 80 years age, or let's say 70 year age, And if you are a young person, let's say you are a teenager, okay, you are a teenager and you are learning to drive a car. So I think common observation is that youngsters, they learn better as compared to the people with advanced age. So is the case with verbal behavior, language learning, okay. So language learning also is challenging or difficult when you grow old. Actually, we approach foreign language, when we come to foreign language, actually our own first language has settled down, language acquisition device has settled down, and now it is very difficult to unlearn, because system of a foreign language may be different from the system of your own language. If you have the same language, if the systems of your own language match with the systems of a foreign language, like there are classification of languages. Some languages are head first languages and some are head last languages, okay. So if your language and the target language is the same, like we have Hindko and Urdu, they are the same languages. I mean, in their phrases, head comes last, okay. So like we say, in Urdu, in Hindko we say pani pisa, and in Urdu we say pani piyunga. So piyunga or pisa, they are preposition phrases, and they come after pani, okay. Pani is a head, sorry, pani is a dependent, and main is preposition head. Now if a Hindu speaker starts learning Urdu, it will be easy for him because both the languages are the same, that is head lost languages. Now compare Urdu or Hindko with English. English is head first language. So in English we say will drink water, I will drink water. So drink comes first and water comes last. So drink is a verb, okay, verb phrase. And here earlier I said preposition phrase, earlier it was verb phrase, like pani pisa is a verb phrase and pani piyunga, it is a verb phrase, okay. And in English we have I will drink water, it's a verb phrase. In English drink comes first, verb, which is a head, and water comes next. So a Hindu speaker who is learning English, he or she will have difficulty because the language systems are different. So if you have an advanced age and you are learning a language with different systems, so it will pose a greater challenge for you. Now let's discuss another important factor known as personality. Now I will not go into detail, but we know that there are two types of personalities. One is introvert and another one is extrovert. So introvert are people who are reserved, who do not meet with people much, and they try to live within their own self. And extrovert are people who are sociable and outgoing. They want to join parties and they go out and they join social gathering, etc. So those who are extroverts, they have more chances to learn a language as compared to those who are reserved. Because people who are sociable, they go and mix with friends, they go and mix with people in social gatherings, so they have more chances to target language exposure as compared to the person who is living inside his room and reading textbook and trying to learn a language. So if two let me give you an example. If two students move to England and they think that they will learn English by living in England, okay, but one student stays in the hotel and just takes out English grammar book and tries to learn language, and the other one goes out and mixes with people in the market. Who has the more chance to learn language? I think the person who mixes with people, he will be exposed to lot of input in English. So extroverts have greater chance to learn a language as compared to the one who are introverts. So this I think suffice. It does not need further explanation. Now learning strategies. Yes, it also presents it's a important factor. So if you are adopting a very good strategy to learn a language, so you will be a very successful learning. One of the example is the ability to fix attention on each detail as it is presented so as to absorb it before going to the next point. So there are, let's say you are teaching in a class and you have 30 students in the class. So few students are paying much attention to whatever is being taught to them, and few are just not paying attention. So those who are using this strategy, that is they are fixing attention on every detail, they will be successful foreign language learners. So my own experience I often mention, and it was also mentioned in WhatsApp group, is that while I was in Pakistan Force as an aeronautical associate engineer, so when we were being trained on aeronautical associate engineering diploma, so our teachers used to talk in English, and I was very keen as far as their language output was concerned. Although they were teaching us thermodynamics, aerodynamics, but they were using English. So I used to note down sentences spoken by my teachers because I was interested in language learning, and my classmates didn't do it. Later on, when I became a load master and I came to 6th squadron in Rawalpindi, there again we had a chance to we were part of the aeroplane crew, and we were also having pilots, co-pilots, engineers, load masters. So whenever we were not flying, we were in the squadron, we would present on different topics. Whenever officers presented, and they were their seniors like group captains and air commodores, or squadron leaders, they used to ask questions from them. And whenever they ask question, they would ask a question like this: could you please educate us on certain thing? So I, sitting in the arena as an audience member, I would note down such phrases because it was quite new for me that a question could be asked like this: could you please educate me? So this was my strategy. So I used to note down everything but my classmates didn't do. And what is the result now? After retirement from Air Force, I did my masters in English as a private candidate, and then later on I became a PhD student. So I think this is a good strategy, that we should pay attention to every detail. And if we are adopting this strategy, paying attention to every detail, then our chances would be different. Successful our learning chances, that is foreign language learning chances, are results are better as compared to the person who does not. So this is individual difference. One person may pay attention to something and another may not pay attention. Another strategy is that you convert your passive knowledge into active knowledge. Okay, let's say you have learned a new word. Okay, and if you want to vocabulary item, let's say, so if you want to make it part of your memory, so what is the strategy? You need to use this word in sentences. Okay, so if you don't use it into sentences, what happens? It will remain in your passive vocabulary. And in order to bring in into active vocabulary, you need to now there's an authority, linguist Paul Nation. I have mentioned it in my voice message as well. Paul Nation has extensively researched vocabulary acquisition area, and he says that if we want that a word should be part and parcel of our memory, we need to use it 10 times in useful, meaningful interactions. Okay, so we need to use a newly acquired learned word in a sentence many times, and then it will become part and parcel. So learners who are using this strategy, that whatever structure, whatever vocabulary item, whatever a lexical item or a syntactical structure they learn, now they don't push it into their passive treasure of knowledge. Rather, they keep using it, they keep practicing it, and this is a very good strategy. And those who do this, they are better learner at foreign languages. Now some students watch movies. Okay, let's say you are learning English, and if you are in the habit of watching English movies, reading English books, okay, then English newspapers and magazines, listening to radio like Voice of America, BBC, etc., so you are better learner as compared to the one who doesn't do this. Okay, Two students start learning a foreign language at the same time, okay, and one student who adopts such strategies as mentioned here, and the another does not adopt, who will be more successful in language learning? So people who research second language learning, they say that the person who adopts this strategy will be more successful as compared to the person who does not adopt this. Now, successful learners are not afraid to make mistakes. Now, this is another strategy. Dr. Stephen Krishnan mentions affective filter. Like some people psychologically, they think that when they speak, they are going to commit mistakes, and their peers, their buddies, they will laugh at them. So, learners with this mindset will not have many chances to progress in the foreign language learning. And those who don't care about what people say or what type of mistakes they are going to make, so they are more successful. So people who have inhibitions in speaking, those who are shy, hesitant, and they think psychologically they will be people will laugh at them, they will make fun of them, such people can't can't learn a language. So good strategy is that we should give damn care to those who are around us. If somebody laughs at our clumsy English, let's say if we are learning English as a foreign language, we should not care about them, and we should continue to speak. My own case, that I also mentioned it in WhatsApp voice message, that when I was at PF base Masroor, and I'm talking about 1992 or 93. So I had a great liking for English language, and I wanted to speak English, I wanted to read English, I wanted to learn English. So I had a buddy with me, and we both went to ante room, and this is known as recreation room, where reading material is also available, and we used to talk to each other in English. Initially, I was quite apprehensive. I thought that other people were getting disturbed, and later on, sorry for interruption. Calls are coming to me, and I'm just rejecting them because lecture is being recorded on my smartphone. So same way, when we used to go to an hotel to have tea or to have some lunch, so as per our plan, we were supposed to be talking to each other in English. So I used to ask my friend that he should keep the voice low, because other people would listen to us, and they would make fun of us, they would laugh at us, and they would say that we were showing off, that we were pretending, and this and that. And he used to say to me that no, don't bother about these people, we have an objective, and we have to practice. So initially I was quite apprehensive and quite hesitant and shyful, but later on I overcame this habit of mine, and I also started speaking. And definitely initially people used to laugh at us, and they were giving us names such as Desi Gora and this and that, but soon they came to know that we were doing all this with a purpose, and then everybody got used to us. Likewise, when I started reading Dan newspaper and the news, initially my people who were playing in the ante room, or people who were coming to the library, they used to very sarcastic with me, and they used to pass sarcastic remarks upon my habit of reading. And initially I used to argue with them, but later on I overcame this habit of mine, and I let them think whatever they thought about me. And what was the result? They also got used to my habit of reading, and ultimately I was able to progress in foreign language learning. So if you do not have any fear to make mistakes, okay, and you speak English, if English is a target language for you, or if you are learning Chinese, and you do not bother about people, or do not bother about making mistakes and public shaming, etc., you have better chances to learn the language as compared to those who indulge in other sort of behavior. Now, influence our mother tongue. So again, earlier I mentioned it, that some people say that mother tongue hinders your progress, that it stops your progress in foreign language learning, and it is a bane. And others say that no, it is a boon or bane. Boon mean that your mother tongue L1 is an asset, it helps and promotes your second language learning or foreign language learning. And being mean that it is a hindrance, it is a hurdle in the way towards your second language learning. Now, those who say it is a hindrance, what is their argument? Okay, let me explain. Those who say that it is a hindrance, they say that your mind is already set in certain linguistic grooves. Okay, your lead is already fixed. So when you start learning a second language or a foreign language, so what happens? There is interference. Let me give you an example. Let's say you are a Hindi speaker or Urdu speaker. In Urdu, we say he eats biscuit, and as you see, subject and verb. Now in Urdu we say वो biscuit खाता है. Now see, this is subject wo and this is object. So in Urdu, just after the subject we have object, but in English just after the subject we have verb. So if you are already let's say trained with Urdu or Hindko, your lead is fixed, okay, with Urdu or Hindko, and you are approaching English, which is a foreign language for you. So with your lead fixed at Hindko or Urdu, and now you are approaching English, definitely there will be confusion, there will be interference, and you will be in trouble, and you will be your rate of learning will be slower because your first language is interfering with your second language systems. Now this is one example. Second example, like Hindko, let me type here Hindko. Hindko is had first language. Now English is had last language. Okay. Now your lad is fixed in this system. Now you are approaching English, which is had last language. Again your mother tongue will interfere. Now let me explain had last and had first. Okay, I do not have space, but let me explain. Let's say there are 5 phrases in every language of the world. Okay, we have a prepositional phrase, verb phrase, noun phrase, adjectival phrase, and adverbial phrase. Let me give you example of a verb phrase. Okay, verb phrase. Just a minute. Okay, just a minute, please. So here is a verb phrase. Let's say I will eat lunch. I will eat lunch. Okay, eat lunch. So this is verb phrase. In English, verb which is a head. This is acting as a head, and this is dependent. So head comes first. Okay, head comes first. English is head first language. English is head first language. Now in Hindko, let's say let me give you an example of Urdu. Okay, lunch खाऊंगा. You can see in English, in Urdu, head is खाऊंगा. It is last. So Urdu is head last language. Okay. I think in previous slide I couldn't give you good example of Hindko, because Hindko and Urdu, they are head last languages. Okay. Their heads come. This is Urdu verb phrase. This is known as Urdu verb phrase. Lunch खाऊंगा. Lunch करूँगा. So this is verb phrase of Urdu. In this verb phrase, खाऊंगा is head and lunch is dependent. So as you can see, खाऊंगा comes after the after. So head, this is known as head last language. And in English, eat lunch. I will eat lunch. Eat comes first. Now, an Urdu speaker or a Hindi speaker who approaches English to learn, so this L1 will interfere, because this is had last language and English is a target language and it is had first language. So this will present a difficulty, and an Urdu speaker or Hindi speaker who is learning English, he or she will initially be faced with challenge. Later on, lad will be shuffled and he or she will learn. So one theory is that your L1 will pose problem and your rate of learning foreign language will be reduced. This is one of the theories. Okay, and here is example of another use of articles in English. Now in English language there is this system of articles like a, an, and the. And let's say they say this is a book, this is a book. Now in Urdu we say ये किताब है. We never say ये एक किताब है, ये एक किताब है. So when an Urdu speaker is taught English and he start that say this is a book, this is a book, or this is an umbrella. Okay, so he or she gets confused, a and an, because in Urdu there is no such article system. We never say we say ये छतरी है और हम कहते हैं ये किताब है, ये किताब है, ये छतरी है. तो हम कभी उसके साथ ए और एन यूज़ नहीं करते हैं, हमारे सिस्टम में है ही नहीं ये चीज़. So when we do not have any article system in Urdu and when we are taught a or an in English, so what is the problem? We are faced with difficulty. So our first language may be a hurdle in learning a second language. Here is another example of English. Let's say some English speaker comes to Pakistan to learn Urdu. Okay, he wants to stay in Pakistan and is learning English. And in Urdu, in English system, they have this phoneme tha. But in Urdu, we have these two phonemes, ta and tha, and they are different phonemes. We have two different words, tali and thali. Okay, but in English, tha is a phoneme and th, this is a allophone. So allophone means the same phoneme with different realization. So English speaker will not be able to speak tali or thali. Let's say हमारा एक सेंटेंस है ताली दोनों हाथों से बजती है या थाली में सुराख है. सो इंग्लिश स्पीकर विल नॉट बी एबल टू से ताली और थाली. वो कहेगा ताली दोनों हाथों से बजती है एंड थाली में सुराख है, बिकॉज देयर इज़ नो साउंड रिलेटेड टू था एंड था in his language. So it means his first language will be influencing his foreign language learning. Urdu will be a foreign language for an English person. Okay, so English person coming to Pakistan learning tali and thali will be difficult because of his first language, because in his first language he does not have these sounds. So he does not have these sounds in his first language, so it is difficulty for him to speak second language sounds. So it means first language does have some effect in language learning. Now I'm going to give you another version of first language. Now how first language supports. So up till now I have been talking about hindrance or interference of first language. This was the case of slower language learning. So your foreign language learning becomes slower because of your first language. Now are there any examples in which we can say that our first language is an asset, it helps us in learning second language? Yes. Now if let's say you are learning a foreign language and let's say you are learning let me give you example of Pashto. Let's say Pashto, stanum sade. Now I already know that in our language we say आपका नाम क्या है, आपका नाम क्या है, आपका नाम क्या है. So I know that आपका stanum, नाम stanum, आपका नाम क्या है, sade क्या है, sade है. So my first language will help in understanding the structure of second language. Okay, when I say मैं let me give you example. My language is Urdu और I say मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ, and in English we say I am studying. So I will relate it with I will try to understand this is I, this is me, and studying पढ़ रहा हूँ. So my first language may help in identifying elements, grammatical elements of target language. So in a way, this is known as contrastive analysis. Contrastive analysis, as you can see here, it is mentioned here. So we can do contrastive analysis. So in language translation method, contrastive analysis was used as a technique. So it means mother tongue can influence our foreign language learning. It may be helpful in foreign language learning in the case of contrastive analysis, or it may be dangerous, or it may be unhelpful, or it may hinder our foreign language learning, and it may interfere with foreign language learning systems. Hope you have got an idea. It's now teacher's performance. So if your teacher is a wonderful teacher, then there are chances that you will be learning foreign language or foreign language fast. But if your teacher is a dreadful teacher, then your chances are dim. So let me give you a few examples. So if friendly attitude, too strict, or too lax. If your teacher is too strict, you will not learn a language. If it is too lax and relaxed with you, again you will not learn, because people, a teacher who does not have control in the class, so he will not be a very good teacher, and student won't listen to him. So any task given by him will not be performed. But if you have friendly attitude as well as a bit control over your students, then there are chances that they will be learning and they will be performing tasks by you. So if teacher's own competence in the target language, it is also a very important factor. If your teacher is himself, herself is not good at English, okay, his pronunciation is not good, his grammatical accuracy is not there, so he will definitely be not giving you good model of English. And when your own language development or your own language learning will be influenced by competence of your teacher. Teachers who are quite competent in their language abilities, in their language, in their subject, they can, if there are two teachers, one teacher is good in English in his subject, or and another teacher is not good at his different systems of target language. So the one who is good at target language, he himself is competent, so I think his students will be better learners as compared to the one who does not have command over the subject. Now what about did the class take teacher seriously? Sometimes class does not take the teacher seriously, rather ignores it. So if a class ignores the teacher, so I think he or she, that class will not learn a language. So you can recall as a student at school, so if you ignored your teacher and you didn't pay attention to your teacher, so I think you would not have learned different grammatical systems well. Sometime it happens that class don't take the teacher seriously. So if a teacher should be such a teacher that, I mean, sometime if he has to crack joke in the class, he must crack joke, he must be friendly with the class. But when it comes to teaching, and he says now class we have to be serious, now I mean business, so class should be serious. And when a teacher must have everything in his repertoire, and he must be a very good manager of the class. So but he should never be lax, he should never let his student ignore him. So the student should be taking the teacher seriously. Now up to date knowledge. Sometime if you are teaching them very out of date things, again you are influencing the language learning. If teachers who are up to date about their knowledge, if they have a calibrated knowledge, if they are in touch with certain, let's say I'm talking about English. So if I am a member of SPELT, Society of Pakistan English Language Teachers, I am a member of IA TOEFL, International Association for Teachers of English as a Foreign Language, or if I am a member of TESOL, Teaching of English to Speakers of Other Languages, it means I will be reading current articles, I will be reading current methodologies in language teaching. But if my own language knowledge is not up to date, so I will not be transferring the up to date knowledge to my students. So it means foreign language learning depends much on the performance of teacher. Okay. Now I+1 and I+2. It is a Dr. Stephen Christian theory of comprehensible input. So if a teacher, Dr. Stephen Krishnan says that language learning happens when we give I plus 1. I plus 1. I plus 1 mean a student already has some initial knowledge of language. Or let's say you are teaching direct and indirect concept, a notion to students. So, and already you have taught them tenses. So if you have already taught them tenses, now if you are teaching them direct and indirect, it means it is a new information for them and they will learn it. But if you give them something less than I plus 1, I minus 1, it will be boring for them because they already know something. Let's say if you are teaching physics, let's say physics to a class, MSc physics class, and now this is very advanced class, and now if you are teaching them what is acceleration, okay, they will be bored because they learned about acceleration when they were matriculate. So you are giving them I minus 1, so they will be bored. But if you are giving them I plus 2, okay, let's say if you are teaching a class of 8th class, okay, 8th class, you are teaching them physics, and now you are talking about Einstein theory of E is equal to mc square. Now it is too much for this 8th class, so actually you are giving them I plus 2, again they will be bored. So anything like I minus 1 or I plus 2 will be boring or will be challenging for student. In this case boring, and this can challenging. But you should always be giving them I plus 1, a little bit higher than what they already possess. So such a learning class will be successful class. So a language teacher, success depends upon the ability of the teachers to make his lectures palatable, digestible. He or she should come to the level of the students. So caliber of the student must be kept in mind. If you are teaching too high philosophically, so teaching student will be bored. And now boring or interesting elements depend upon your I plus 1. Now interactive or lecturer, some teachers give just lectures, so you must be aware that your class is having multiple intelligences. So some of them are bodily kinesthetic, okay, they want to be called to the whiteboard or blackboard, okay, they want to be involved in group work and pair work, and some just want to listen to lecture. So if you continue lecturing them, they will be bored. So if class is interactive, students are talking to each other, students are talking to the teacher is asking question to them from them. So interactive classes learn languages better as compared to classes where only teacher is talking, because there is no practice. So we learn language in a meaningful way, that is we when we interaction theory, interactionist theory. So interaction is very important. Last, enthusiastic about the subject. If a teacher himself herself is not enthusiastic about the subject, okay, if a teacher is a teacher by force, okay, he was not having any other he might have tried to be an engineer, to be a doctor, but he failed, and then as an alternative he joined calling of teaching. So such a teacher may not have much enthusiasm. So if a teacher does not have passion, craving and enthusiasm himself herself, he won't be able to induce this enthusiasm into his students. So teachers who are quite enthusiastic and quite passionate, their classes, language learning classes, perform better as compared to those teachers who are not enthusiastic. So these were few things regarding teacher performance. So I think this is my personal view, other than these theories, that if a teacher is enthusiastic, definitely his students are going to learn language quickly, because he will be instilling the same enthusiasm into his student. And if other factors related to teachers, they also affect. So in today's lecture I'm going to wind up. I discuss some of the factors which affect foreign language learning. So aptitude, motivation, need, personality, age, learning strategies, L1 influence, teachers performance. Okay, now L1 influence can be productive and destructive. Okay, it can assist foreign language learning or it can retard foreign language learning. Age, again, advanced age may be a hindrance in foreign language learning, and sometimes adults, people who are advanced in age, they may learn better as compared to youngster. Now personality, we have introvert personality and extrovert personality. Introverts learn foreign language lesser as compared to extroverts. Now need, if you have immediate need, then you will learn foreign language quickly, and if you have a delayed need, you will be slow learner. Motivation, if you are integratively motivated, you are a better learner, and if you are instrumentally motivated learner, then you have less chances to learn a language. Aptitude, if you are gifted for languages, your performance will be better as compared to others. So it is just god gifted thing. Some of us are have intelligence for language, verbal intelligence. So we some of us usually do not have this language aptitude. So hope from today's lecture few things have been communicated to you. This lecture was specifically recorded for my own class, that is BS English 6th semester, studying in psycholinguistics at Government Degree College Valia. I already shared with them a lecture on WhatsApp in the form of 10 long voice messages. Same points have been repeated here, so there was a kind of repetition. That's why I was speaking very fast. During my recording of this lecture, there were few calls which interrupted it, so I paused, and I'm recording this lecture on my smartphone, and using an X recorder. Okay, thank you very much. Dear students, if you have any question, you can just type in the YouTube videos description bar, or you can if other students are listening to me, other general audience is listening to me, if you have any question, you are requested to type your query in the description below the video. I will answer it, inshallah. I'm myself learning things. I usually consult different books, and then I present my ideas. Thank you very much.